सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। So we had stopped with a question last time. The question was, if between the aggressive bad and the passive good, the aggressive bad win, it is because the aggressive good are using their intellect. Correct? We had stopped at that point. For those who are joining us for the first time, is anyone here who was not there last time?
Yes,
Anyone? Okay, Jyoti.
me.
Okay. Suman, you have been here before, but Jyoti, this is not your first Vedanta class, is it?
I usually attend the Gita class on Sundays. So this is my first time in today's class.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right, Jyoti and Suman, what we studied last time was that, okay, Anmol, what we studied last time was trying to understand a concept Soma, first time Vedanta treatise. Satish, okay, quite a few. Okay, so the point we tried to understand last time was how is it in life that good people don't do as well as we expect them to, right? We keep saying how useful goodness is and all, but then you always find that what is this they say, the good guys end last or something like that. They finish last. So it seems like the more selfish people in this world seem to be doing better. So why is it that the good suffer, especially when we've heard so much about how well people who are good are going to do? Why is it the good suffer and that the more selfish, more bad or wicked seem to do well? I mean, look at any criminal, right? He has more money than any one of us are going to have. What is that chap's name? Dawood Ibrahim. He's probably got more money or whatever it is than we have. He's more famous than we are. Nobody knows us. Everybody knows Dawood Ibrahim. So how is it that these so-called bad people um, do better than the good people? So this is a question that baffles everybody. Why do the good not? I mean, after all we hear about how it's necessary to be good, then why do we not do so well as the so-called bad people? Why do the good suffer and the bad do well? That's the question. So the answer was the following. The answer was that it is because sometimes good people don't use their head, meaning their goodness is passive goodness. But the bad people, sometimes they do use their head more frequently, and therefore, anyone who uses his head will do better than anyone who doesn't. In other words, the aggressive will always do better than the passive. Omkar. Omkar, can you put that? Um, yeah, thank you. So, for those who have joined us on Instagram, let me try and show you the picture. Um, you can see this. Can you see this? Okay, so you will see that there are human beings divided into the aggressive and the passive. The aggressive people, I don't know if you can see this, the aggressive people are the people who use their intellect and work. The passive people are those who function on their mind. Functioning on their mind means they function on their likes and dislikes, they function on conditioning, they function on herd instinct, they function on anything that is the norm. They do that. The aggressive people, they think it through. They don't just do whatever everybody's doing or whatever the norm. They don't do things like that. They trying to figure out, if I do this, this will happen. If I do that, that will happen. They figure it out in their heads. Now, when you're passive, you can be passively good. What is passively good? Passive good means that you're charitable or you're kind or you're giving or your service, you do service for people. You do all these things, but why are you doing them? Because it's your nature, or because that's the way you were brought up, or because that's the kind of society you're in. That's how people around you, that's the rule and the regulation around you. So you do these things, and they're good things, naturally, they're very good things, but you do them because not because you're thinking it through, not because you figured out that it's the right thing to do, but this is the norm as far as you're concerned. That's the norm. Why is it the norm? Because either that's your nature, or because everybody around you did it, or your parents were like that. Many people are very charitable because their whole family, pure khandan mein charity hoti hai. Very, very charitable. So they are also charitable. Um, so these are the passively good people. The passively bad people do exactly the same thing, but in their case, their nature or their surrounding or their parents or whatever it is, tends towards negative things. Like, for instance, maybe gambling, or I don't know what, something, or excessive drinking, or even like terrible behavior. Now, some people are very polished, but why are they polished? Because they grew up like that. And some people are very, what should I say, not polished, very unsophisticated. Why? Because they grew up that way. So we can do good and bad things based on this conditioning, on nature, on herd. People around us are doing. It's the herd instinct, and we can do this for good ends or for bad ends. Okay, so I hope that is clear. What is passive people? Now let's turn our attention to aggressive people. Aggressive people are those people who don't function on their likes and dislikes, on what everybody around them is doing. They don't consider rules and regulations, and what is correct and what is incorrect. Don't have all this stuff in their head. Then what do they function on? They function on logic.
Intellect.
Sorry?
Intellect.
On intellect, yes. So they think it through, they plan, they even maneuver, they may manipulate. They don't do things just because somebody says it's the right thing to do, or even they think it's the right thing to do, some right as in whatever we are conditioned into. They don't function like that. What do? They think carefully. They're playing a chess game. They think carefully what they need to do, where will it take them, how will it take them there, are there better ways of achieving the same result, what is the result they want to achieve. They think 99 point per 99% of people who use their intellect immediately understand how this is beneficial to them and therefore use it for selfish purposes. Such kind of people are known as aggressive bad people. They plan, they scheme, they maneuver, they know where they're headed, they know how to deal with you. All these television serials or movies where they show this villain who does all this stuff, they're usually the aggressive bad. Because good villains have to be aggressive bad. Passive people are neither good villains nor good heroes. They can't be. They are the passive good people, and the passive bad people will get trampled over by these aggressively bad people. You've seen that, right? How they didn't sacrifice anyone. Can someone be a mix of passive good and aggressive bad? Yes, you can be anything, yes. But the question is that, don't go there. Just first figure out what is passive and aggressive. So aggressive good, on the other hand, are as good as the aggressive bad when it comes to using their intellect. They're just as good. In the sense, they're just as good means they're just as skilled in using the intellect. They can, yes, Jyoti, of course, the intellect can be used for bad purposes. What do you think Hitler is about? What do you think any negative person in this world who has achieved negatively? What do you think Osama bin Laden is? Think of what Osama bin Laden did. He sacrificed a few of his people, a handful, and killed thousands of his enemy. Right? That's what he did. This is aggressive bad. I mean, for those who are the other side, this is aggressive bad. We don't know what his motivation was, but for practical purposes, we'll put him under aggressive bad, not knowing what his motivation was. But the fact is that he used his head over here. As a strategy, it was an excellent strategy. So all the greats in terms of badness are those who use their head. 99% of people do that because you can figure it out, right? You understood it. Even in the corporate ladder, who's going to rise? The person who's using his head. He knows that my boss requires a bottle sent every now and then. He'll send it. He won't stand on compunctions like the passive good will stand. Passive good will not say, oh, I can't do that. That is so bad, no? Aggressive people don't think like that. 99% of people who use their head use it for selfish purposes. This is unfortunate. Because there's yet another option available to us, which is aggressive good. Aggressive good are those people who use their head, but for the welfare of everybody. A human being is a human being when he becomes aggressively good. He also may not stand on any formalities, just as the aggressive bad doesn't. He will also scheme, manipulate, do whatever it requires, but for the welfare of all. So this is the distinction between these four categories. If you carefully examine our scriptures, you will see this. You will see that the Kauravas are passively bad people. They're just going to be the pawns in that game. Duryodhana, or probably more correctly, Shakuni, is the aggressively bad person. He is going to manipulate all this going on. Pandavas are the passively good people. They're very good, but they never use their head. And as a consequence of that, Yudhishthira, who is the natural heir, he's the king of the land. He spent half his life in the forest. He would have spent his whole life there, except that in that time was present an aggressively good person. So the aggressively good person is Krishna. Krishna can deal with all these categories, the bad, the passively good and bad, the aggressive bad. He will deal with them all. He has no problem. And he will win the game, not for himself, but for the general welfare. Means he, just think about it, right? Krishna played all the tricks, did all the manipulation, did all the nutcut that he normally does. But for what? By the Pandavas winning, what was he supposed to get? Nothing, right? He just helped them. Purely altruistic. And why? Why did he help them? Because he wanted to resurrect righteousness. He wanted the good guys to be on top. That's it. He sacrificed even his reputation. So many people say negative things about him because they know what he has done. Oh, look how he's behaved. What do you mean how he's behaved? Do you even understand what was at stake? This kind of immaturity that we have, saying, oh, he didn't behave nicely. Did he do nice things by doing that? What kind of immaturity is that? Do you understand that situation? Do you realize what was at stake? Do you realize what options were available to him at that time? He just made the best of whatever he could do. That's an aggressively good person. So in this war, okay, so this is what we did up to last time. I hope it's clear up to this point. All right, if everybody's clear up to this point, then we ended at a question. The question was this. The aggressive bad win over the passive good because they're using their head. But when the battle is between the aggressive good and the aggressive bad, why would the aggressive good win? They're both using their head, right? So it should be anybody's game. Why would one win? So now I believe there are many answers here. Let me read what is written. Ashia is our
Logical thinking.
batsman. Both have logical thinking, Dipti. Okay, let's read what's on the chat. So let's see if anyone has any responses to that. Ashia, starting. Aggressive goods mind is more peaceful, so the intellect is more available as compared to aggressive bad. Hey, wonderful, Asha. Excellent. So I hope that's clear to everybody. Between the fight between aggressive good and aggressive bad, why will the aggressive good win? You will be able to realize this if you remember the two laws that we have studied earlier. Law number 1, the greater the selfishness, the greater the mental agitation. What's the first law? The greater the selfishness, the greater the mental agitation. And law number 2, the greater the mental agitations, the lesser can the intellect function. Second law is the greater the mental agitations, the lower the functioning of the intellect. Right? In other words, when you get extremely agitated, you can't think. What causes agitations? Selfishness. So when there's a lot of selfishness, you get very agitated. And when you get very agitated, you can't think straight. So what happens with the aggressive bad? Yes, miracles. Yes, that's correct. The greater the selfishness, greater the mental agitation. Um, so when you get agitated, you can't think. So what happens with the aggressive bad is they make multiple mistakes. That's what they keep doing. They make mistake after mistake after mistake. And that's why the aggressive good will win. If you assume that both parties had equal intellect, then the intellect of the aggressive good will simply work better because he is more peaceful. It's that simple. So if you follow the line of thought, you would naturally ask this question: why the assumption that the aggressive good will win over the aggressive bad? So, so if you ask questions like this, then you know that you followed the line of thought. So I hope that's clear. Let's see what everybody else had to say. Meera, the aggressive bad tend to have a selfish goal. Not tend to, the aggressive bad have a selfish goal. Often they lose a battle to achieve the selfish goal. Often they lose a battle to achieve that selfish goal. Yes, it's just like you sacrifice a pawn in a chess game, or you lose that pawn, but then you're going to get the queen, or you're going to get, you're going to checkmate, or whatever it is. So, and then they're agitated. No, they're not agitated because of the loss. That loss is what they have programmed into the system so that they will win in the end. And they lose their sense of equanimity. Yes, they do get agitated, but not out of that loss, due to which they lose focus of their goal, and this weakens their ability to attain their goal. Yes, Midna, you're quite close to the answer. Correct. When the mind gets agitated, the intellect cannot think. So what is agitating him is the very selfishness in him. So the selfishness creates craving, longing. It creates unnecessary thinking. It does all sorts of things. It agitates the mind. And if there's an unprogrammed loss, then yes, that will also agitate him because he's just lost something. So that way, yes. So you're right also, I think, that when they get agitated, they lose their peace and therefore they cannot think. Satish, oh, these are all first time, okay. So Meera, on the other hand, aggressive good tend to have a less selfless goal for the benefit of all. When they fail in a battle temporarily, they do not get agitated, do not lose their equanimity, hence they don't focus on the goal. Yes. It's not only about losing, even winning. I mean, anyway, they continue to be peaceful, but the selfish people get very agitated. Shanti Shrikant. AB represents our base instinct and desires. Okay, aggressive bad, our vasanas. Aggressive good represents the selfless tendencies. That's correct. Aggressive good's victory represents the destruction of our vasanas, vastness and realization of the self. No, Shanti, we're not talking about that. We are talking about our capacity to deal with the world. We are not talking about spiritual growth over here. We are talking about our capacity to deal with the world. Why do good people find it so difficult to deal in the world? It should not be so. It should be that they are the richest, the most successful, the happiest, the most famous, the most, I don't know what, the most healthy, the most, like all the good stuff which should be with the good people. No, it should not be bad stuff with the good people and the good stuff with the bad people. It shouldn't be like that. So why is it that it's not like that? So it's not representing anything. It is talking about a practical way of dealing with the situations the world throws on us. Jyoti, that means intellect can be used for bad also. Yes, that's correct. We already did that. Uh, Jyoti, would you consider Bhishma as passively bad? No, Jyoti, he's aggressively good. He's aggressively good because he has taken a vow. He has decided that he is going to renounce the kingdom. The character of Bhishma is the character of very high sattva. You can't call him bad in any way, and passive also is not a title you can give to him. It's a complex character. Why it is so complex is because he's a very highly developed individual. And how do we know that he's a very highly developed individual? Because the moment he understood that his aged father wanted to marry a young fisherwoman and his happiness, that's what he wanted to do. He said, okay, I will give up Kanchana and Kamini, which is the two main motivations of a human life. Kanchana and Kamini. Kanchana, his kingdom. Kamini, he said, I won't get married. I believe you all know the story, right? Anybody doesn't know the story of Bhishma? Please tell me, so I'll tell you the story.
Me.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hi, Marsh. Okay, so Marsh, the story of
Sorry about that.
no, not at all. I'm sure there are, it's so difficult to have a class where you can't see people, so we don't know whether anyone's following all this. So, Mars, the story goes like this, that Shantanu, Bhishma's father, wanted to marry a fisherwoman. He's old, okay? His son is ready to become the prince and he wants to marry some lady. So the father is very upset because he says, how can I do this? And he doesn't, he gives it up. So his son goes to that fisherwoman, finds out what is ailing his father, goes to the fisherwoman and says, please marry my father. She said, well, not she, her father says, what will be the status of my daughter in such a household? You will be prince and you will get married and your wife will treat her very badly. What will be her status in that household? She will be queen just for name. So he said, uh, no, she can have the kingdom. She and her children can have the kingdom. I will stake no claim on it. I'm fine with that. Her children will be the prince. So she continues to be queen. And then he says, okay, so you are a great soul. You will give up the kingdom, but your children, they'll fight for it. They will come up and say, our father had no right to give up what is ours. What will we do then? They'll throw us out. So Bhishma says, in that case, I promise you, I will not get married. So for his father's passion, he gave up Kanchana and Kamini. You remember Kanchana and Kamini? He gave up wealth and woman. He gave up any pursuit of pleasure for his whole life.
Thank you. Very interesting.
So such a person, we cannot call him bad by any chance. And he was not passive because he made a choice. He decided to do it and he did it. And he stayed with that choice, which was so difficult. Just imagine what it was for him. He was brought up by the gods to run the Kuru kingdom. Brought up by the gods, trained by the gods to do this. His mother had taken him to heaven. So he was trained by the gods. He was the most efficient, most capable person there. And these jokers were fighting over it. And when his king, which means his, his nephew actually now, is making mistakes. He advises him, but he takes no power in his hand. This is called character. In our case, we are not able to do that even with reference to a gift. And suppose I give Aditi a sari, and then Aditi goes and gives that sari to her maid. I will have a view on this matter, right? How I gave Aditi a sari and she gave it to the maid. You know what that shows? It shows that though I claim to have given it, I haven't given it. I do not look upon that sari as her possession to do whatever in the world she wants. So, Jyoti, Bhishma is not a passively bad. He's huge character. The character that he can continue to behave like a citizen because he has given up kingship. He has given it up from the root. That is the moral of that story. He doesn't possess it at all. Otherwise, sometime he would have said, how dare you people behave like this with my kingdom? He never said that. He had given it up totally from his heart. And that's what we learn from Bhishma's character. That's why studying mythology is extremely important in the light of Vedanta. Otherwise, we learn all the wrong things from it. It's really very sad. But now that we're going to do how do you know what we know, hopefully we are going to study how to read mythology. So, Reshma, the aggressive bad is self-centered and hence loses intellect and fails. Yes, correct, Reshma. He's self-centered and will lose his intellect. But give us why, if he's self-centered, he will lose his intellect. If he's self-centered, he loses his intellect because his agitations take over. Manoj, yes. Why is he more energetic, Manoj? Because he is not agitated. Why can people run? Why do good people do more work? Because they're not tired. Why can Mother Teresa work without a holiday, but we need a holiday? Because they're tired over it. That's why. Aditi, the attempt to answer the question put forth in the previous class. I guess you can all read this. Aditi, you cannot answer in a book, Aditi. Your answer has to be in short. So please, everybody, just read Aditi's answer. The short answer, Aditi, is this: he will get agitated, and therefore his intellect won't function. That's all we really need to know. Ganesh. No, Ganesh, that's not correct. We are not going to fool around with it and redefine victory. Victory is not defined as right action. Victory is defined as achievement of objective. Achievement of objective happens because of right action. You cannot change the definition and play with words. Please understand, everybody. I think everybody makes this mistake when we come across this topic, because we're always talking about spirituality, spirituality, spirituality. We sometimes lose track of ground reality. Okay? However much we want spirituality, we live in this world. We have to deal with this world. And you cannot say, oh, I'm so good and I live in the high heavens. You don't. You live right here and you have to deal with whatever this world offers you. If you say, I will not deal with it, that is called passively good. Have to deal with it for your welfare and for the welfare of everybody around you. You have no option over here. Okay, so no, we're not changing. No one has control over the result except the action. But you have control over the result by having control over the action. You don't say don't have control over result. Of course you have control over result because you have control over action. And action is the cause of result. If your action doesn't give you the result, Review your action, please. What is it you're trying to achieve? Has that action brought that result? And if it hasn't brought the result, then what do I need to change in my action to bring that result? That's the practical way of living life. Bharat, so long as the aggressive bad have a handle on the desire, it's an equal battle between both the aggressive good and aggressive bad. You're right, Bharat. Yes, it will be an equal battle because have a handle on the desire means your intellect is dealing with that desire, right? That's what it means. So, as long as you deal with that desire, you are controlling, directing that desire. Aggressive good and bad are on equal status. However, what happens in the case of the aggressive bad is that because those desires are very selfish and self centered, they escape the barrier of the intellect. And why do they do that? Because they're so selfish. That means that power is much more unrestrained, much more, not unrestrained, much more unrestrainable. Subtle desires are always easier to control than grosser desires. Grosser desires break through the barrier of the intellect because it's like a flood going on here. But his intellect is strong, so it's holding it. But they breach it every now and then. That agitation builds up. But in the case of the aggressively good person, this mechanism is not happening because his desires are fewer in the first place. So that mechanism is not taking place. So actually, if you go to really examine this, if there was an aggressively bad person whose intellect was, let's say, 80%, and an aggressively good person whose intellect was only 50%, I would still go with the aggressive good winning because his output would still be higher. So the agitation caused by selfish desire is is way higher than that caused by unselfish desire. Is that clear, Bharat?
Yes, thank you.
Ma'am, can I ask a question related to this?
Related to this means what I just said.
Miss, yeah, just said, yeah. Like
Okay,
you
go
said,
ahead
subtle
because I have.
desire like you said, subtle desire are like more easy to control than the grosser. Means the bad desires are called very gross desires
Yeah,
or
selfish
bad
desires.
things.
Yeah, selfish desires
Okay,
and gross desires. And when I say they're
thank you.
easier to control, it's not that they're easier to control, they're less agitating and therefore break the barrier less.
Thank you.
Oh, Alka, self. No, nothing to do with the subtle intellect, Alka, because subtle intellect by definition doesn't transact in the world. Subtle intellect means that intellect which distinguishes between the terrestrial and the transcendental. So it doesn't transact in the world. You have to use your gross intellect in the world. Kalyan,
Thank you, ma'am.
don't know. Okay. Jyoti, when Draupadi was disrobed, he didn't do anything to stop it. He couldn't. He was in a monarchy. What can he do? And it's not true that he didn't do anything to stop it. He did. He did. He did everything a citizen could possibly do. So there was his powers were restricted, just like Jyoti. Which country are you in, Jyoti?
I'm in India. I used to live in Morocco, but I'm now in India.
Okay. So now suppose.
Morocco is a kingdom.
Okay. So suppose now Modi does something that you don't appreciate. He declares demonetization. And history holds you accountable and says, but why didn't Jyoti do something then? That would be unfair, right? Because you were not in a position of power. What would you have done?
Yeah.
So this is the That's the whole point of Bhishma's character. That's what you have to learn. He actually was a citizen in his own eyes. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah,
In his own
detached.
eyes. Huh?
Detached from everything else.
No, it's not about detached. It is he's given something up means he's given it up from the root. He said, I will not be the king. And he's given it up from the root. Do you think that's easy? You try giving up something from the root. Absolutely. Even if we give somebody a gift, we cannot give it up. He gave it up from the root. He had no thought about its ownership after he gave it up. That's why he's called Bhishma. Bhishma comes from Bhisham, means this oath which was executed not just in letter, but right down to the last drop of it. And that's character. Like he's shown to be very high sattva. He did all he could as a citizen, no more.
So who would be an example of passively bad?
All the Kauravas who
The
poor
Kauravas.
fellows died, no?
Yeah.
They all died.
Yeah.
I mean, so many. You look at I don't know. Are you familiar with Shakespeare?
A little bit.
You know Othello?
Yeah.
Okay, so the play has Iago, who's the aggressively bad. Then you have what was that fatty's name? Who has studied Othello? Remember the guy who loved Desdemona and then Othello played on him? Sorry, then Iago played on him. Okay, that's Cassius, passively good. And there's a passively bad guy there. What was his name? Anyone remembers?
I don't remember also.
Okay, so you remember the character, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that fellow was in love with Desdemona, and Iago promised that he would get him Desdemona. So he just played around with the guy so that he gets his game done. So that was a passively bad guy. He had a bad desire. He wanted the wife of another man, and he was stupid enough to follow Iago. So that's passively bad. Like that, you'll see various characters are there across literature, across mythologies. You'll find these characters. Razar. Razar, of course, you can ask a question. You can ask it from anywhere. Okay, my God, so many messages. Are we going to ever read this topic? Bhishma was loyal to the unrighteous. Don't say he was loyal to the unrighteous. He played his role. Please remember the concept. This is a very difficult concept for modern people to get. It's an Indian concept, very deeply Indian, that dharma is different for different people based on their positions in life. There is not one dharma for everybody. Each man has his own dharma. And that dharma is determined by his position, where he stands. So two very dharmic people may be in a quarrel and they will both be considered great. Now you'll say, give me an example. Okay, example. There's so many delightful examples, but I have to tell you the whole story. So which one to tell you where I don't have to tell you the story is? Okay, has to be the Ballad of East and West. You heard Ballad of East and West, everybody? We studied it in school, remember? Don't say no. I thought Ballad of East and West. There was it is the time of the British rule in India. The British colonel's son said, "The East is East and the West is West, and never the twain shall meet until they both stand at God's great judgment feet, with neither East nor West." Bharat, where are you? Why am I doing this? Bharat, please say this.
Oh, sorry. I think I missed school when this was happening.
Okay, how come, Bharat? Okay, but neither east nor west matter when two great men meet. That's the moral of the story. So the story is there's one of them is it's the northeast frontier province, and this guy has run off with the colonel's horse. And how one is a thief and one is the colonel, and how they're both people of character, and how at the end they make up. Please read the story now. I can't tell every story. Means I can tell it, but our whole class will go in telling stories, which I think most people will be happy with, but then we will not ever finish the text. And then Bharat will get on my case. He'll say that these people are asking too many questions and text never continues. So, in fear of Bharat, I am now restricting stories because I can't restrict the questions. Sangeeta, they work for the betterment of humanity, therefore win. I wish, Sangeeta, you were right. That is not how it happens in this world. People working for the betterment of humanity often just lose it and meet with a bad end. And if you really want to know how that works in real life, please go and see a classic Hindi movie. You know which one I'm referring to? A classic Hindi movie. For all those who know Hindi, please watch it. It was a classic. It's a delightful movie, so do watch it. Um, you know which movie? Classic movie that talks about how these good guys will suffer. Jaane Bhi Do Yaro. Remember it? Please go and see it. If you haven't seen it, see it because you'll understand this whole. Razar. Personally, following detachment has been stressful. Feels like rewiring your brain. I recommend Razar, please stop following detachment. If you follow any form of detachment and become stressful, it means that you're calling the wrong thing detachment. So don't do it, whatever it is. The greatest joy of detachment is the pleasure that comes up. So if it's being stressful, you're doing something you shouldn't be doing in the first place. Probably. I don't know. You know, online people ask questions. I have no idea what the background is. Definitely don't want to say anything that will just make matters worse. Anmol, comments on my answer. I'll have to go back and see what your answer is. But in the meanwhile, 15 new men. Rodrigo. Very good, Reshma. Thank you. Rodrigo is right. Uh, how can what is available now but not later be called intellect? I don't understand you. Satsang host, is that Omkar? What do you mean? You mean
Maybe,
how can your intellect go away? Is that what you're meaning?
yeah, I mean, yes, when we said the aggressive good and the aggressive bad, eventually the aggressive good win because the aggressive bad will, uh, I mean, their intellect will not be available to them because of their selfishness. My question is that if that is what characterizes them, then what they had in the beginning, how can that ever be called intellect?
Why not? Then none of us would ever have an intellect. Doesn't our intellect go? Omkar, if Sheetal says something irritating to you, doesn't your intellect go? Does that mean that you never had an intellect and you never do anything sensibly? That's not what it means. That's the whole point of life. Our intellect goes away. When our intellect functions, we are doing very well. And when our intellect stops functioning, we go zoom, 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 zoom down the drain before we know what happened. It's not that we are zero intellect. No, but nobody is zero intellect. Nobody's using intellect zero. We are all using it sometimes, not using it sometimes, using it prematurely sometimes. We're doing funny and strange things with it. That's why we get into trouble. So why would it not be intellect just because it's not available at all times? Doesn't follow any definitions that are given. It's very easy to lose good sense. Very easy to lose good sense. Elsie, why the victory of aggressive good is not sustained? If it is the victory, Elsie, it will definitely be sustained.
Okay, thank you. But in the society, we see that it comes and goes. It's like a cycle.
It's not, it's because, okay, so when aggressive person is there, the good will win. Then the aggressive person is not there after some time, and then the passivity takes over. The good and the bad passivity takes over until the aggressive
Okay.
bad comes along and gives it a spin and makes it even worse. And then another aggressive good person will come along and sort that out.
Okay. So it keeps on coming and going.
Yeah, because human beings come and go, right?
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you, Janani.
Surinder, in the current aggressive bad is winning. Why aggressive good is not winning in our current world? Anybody knows the answer to this question, Surendra? Why is aggressive good not winning in our current world? Who can answer that?
There is no aggressive
Not
good.
using intellect.
Very good. Where is the aggressive good? We are all passive. In fact, how many people come and talk to me? Recently, one institution wanted me to address them, and I am going to, of course, but it's almost futile. Like, you keep talking about how you want world peace and you want this and you want everybody to get along with everybody, and nobody should dominate and nobody should do this, nobody should do that, and we should all live together in love and peace and adore each other. I mean, like, what? I live in some kind of dream world or something? I mean, like, people are not able to live with one human being in their own home. And they talk about world peace. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of this, what to think of it. It's like we're all living in some kind of dreams, like the flower children, oh, everything is so beautiful. No human being should have power over any other person. No this, no that. Oh, wonderful things, buddy. Where's your plan of action to achieve this? And that plan of action must start with you yourself as a human being capable of doing that. Do it. Be such a person that you have nothing ever in your heart against anybody. Then talk about world peace. He should not fight with him. Arey, what about the person I'm fighting with? Uska to koi baat hi nahi. We cannot live without fighting. And let us become the people who can live without fighting. World peace will take care of itself. We will dominate people the moment we get half a chance. We will take advantage of people if we get quarter chance. We are these people. What is the society we are talking about? What is the society we want to improve? Oh, these people are so materialistic. Who are these materialistic people? You and I. Do we not want those things? Who are we fooling? What are we talking about? It's just dreams and imagination. So even the people who want good things, how can I tell them this, right? They'll throw me into the well if I say this to them. So what now? What can I say? Well, I'll say, yeah, so nice. It's very, very, we must work for world peace. Abhi aao bache. Listen to the lecture. Then you will find out how we are going to work for world peace. Okay? I mean, like, so in other words, the point being,
Morning study.
Reshma, the point being, I mean, I love that answer most times.
Use your intellect
No, I'm
in the
only
right way whenever required.
right. I'm only explaining Bharat's answer. Bharat's answer was, where is the aggressive good? Only explaining it. We are living in some dream world. None of us are becoming aggressive good. You cannot be an aggressively good person unless you have a noble aim, a single one, not everything I want, all wonderful things I want. No, you can have a single aim and you can have a path, a program to reach that particular thing, and you have a timeline in which you're going to reach that thing. And then you have some hope that there is some intellect being used over there. No, I must develop myself. Excuse me, what does development mean? I don't know. I guess I should be a nice person. And there is no aggressive good over there. This is all dreams and imagination. So, Anmol, I'm sorry I haven't commented on your answer, but if your answer was along the lines of the aggressive good use their head more than the aggressive bad because their goodness keeps them peaceful, then your answer was correct. I don't know what you have written. I hope that's enough. Okay, so, have I finished everybody's points? Now, shall we all quickly read the subtopic, because I think it is fairly clear. Is the subtopic fairly clear? Please give me a thumbs up if you find it fairly clear.
Yes.
Okay, great. There was only one. Oops, remove this Omkar so I can see if anyone has given a thumbs up. Okay, so okay. All right, so I would imagine, okay. All right, I imagine most are okay with it. So just let's read it. Who will read it? Sarah, will you read it?
Janviji, we were on this paragraph, the last, those who remain.
This one, isn't it? Did we do it or not, this one?
Ma'am, what is the answer? I'm slightly confused with the question asked.
Ganesh. Why do the aggressive good win over the aggressive bad? What is the difficulty in the aggressive good winning? Because both are using their intellect. So why would you assume that the good will win and not the bad? Question clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, why do we say that? Point number one. When you have good desires, meaning you're an unselfish person, the mind is calm. Because the law is the greater the selfishness, the greater the mental agitation.
Okay.
Right? Point number one. Point number two. The greater the mental agitations, the less the intellect can function. Such as when you are going for a job interview and you're very anxious to get that job. So even simple questions that the interviewer may ask you, you may get wrong. Why did you get them wrong when you did know the answer? Because mind was agitated. The intellect couldn't think. So because of these two laws, the aggressive good will win over the aggressive bad.
Okay, ma'am.
Clear?
Yes.
Thank you for asking, because if you didn't understand, maybe everybody else also hasn't understood. So to let me know that I have just failed in my endeavor. So please do let me know so that we can do this. We can do it any amount of times, but please understand everything before we move forward. Otherwise, we will all become masters of generalization. Just generalize. In India, everybody can talk about spirituality. Just generalize. Kuch bhi bolo. Everything is alright. Okay. So,
Janki ji, please explain second point once again. I understood first point, second point.
okay. Who just said that? Rajni? Is that
Yes,
you?
yes.
So when our minds are agitated, our intellects don't think. Are you married, Rajni? Rajni, are you married? You're muted, so if you're saying something, I can't hear you. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, then at least I can know. I'm assuming thumbs up means you're married. Rajni? Unless, of course, you want, okay, yes. Yes, so Rajni, you're married. Now, your husband must be saying irritating things to you, right? That you need not answer, that I know. Your husband will be saying irritating things to you. Now, when he says irritating things to you, are you able to think clearly what you should be doing? Or do you impulsively react to what he said? So, what does that show? When my mind starts getting agitated, my intellect doesn't think. If you see your child, you have a child, if you see a child doing something that he shouldn't be doing, you get very irritated. When you get irritated, your intellect doesn't stop to think, what is the right action for me over here? What do? You impulsively shout, you impulsively take action, you may raise your hand and slap your child, you may do anything. Anything is possible. They shout, scream, nag, complain, grumble, so many things. Women have many weapons in their armory. They can shoot out anyone. The only problem is they don't think which is the one I should shoot out right now. Jo hai, sab dal do, sab chhod do. So, when we do that, our intellect is non-functional. So, when the mind gets agitated, the intellect cannot think. Clear? And a child going to exam makes what they call careless mistakes. Don't you remember in school we were told, don't make careless mistakes. But nobody told us how not to make careless mistakes. What is careless mistakes? My mind gets agitated, my intellect cannot think. Okay, Rajni?
Yes, Janki ji, thank you.
Hariom, one question. But
Yeah,
the
okay.
aggressive bad will not make careless mistakes, right? They use their intellect a lot. I know that the some amount of emotion is entangled, but we can't expect them to commit
If that was true, if what you're saying is true, Ganesh, then no murderer would ever get caught. How do the murderers get caught?
True.
They make some mistake. And then the aggressive good goes and catches them. As long as they're using your head, you won't get caught. But you will. And why will you make that mistake? Because the selfishness is agitating the mind. So the intellect cannot think.
Got it now. Got it.
Okay, so then that's it for today. Now that we have studied this in fair detail, maybe we need not read it in class together. Do you all want to read it in class together? Or you all can just read it at home and we can go to the next chapter. What do you want?
Yes, we are okay with it. We can go to the next chapter.
Okay, next chapter. Okay, so we'll go to the next chapter, but please do read it. Don't say, okay, ho gaya. It's a very important topic because it's very practical and it's something that we should do. We should know this. Satish, in the book that we are studying. Or maybe everybody doesn't have the book. Firstly, everybody please do get the book. And if you don't have the book, we could read it in class together.
Janki ji, can I ask a question?
The question was, now that we've done it in detail so much, do you want to read it together in class or do you read it on your own?
No, can I ask a question?
Oh, you have another question. Yeah, go ahead.
In case we don't understand what we have read, then is it okay to do it in class?
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay.
This class is meant to explain the book. So if it's not clear, then of course we'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe we can just read it once in class, Janki ji.
Okay, we can do that. We'll read it once in class next time. Okay.
Thank you.
Hariom Janki ji. Thank you.
Hariom Janki ji.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Hariom.
For your
Thank you,
patience.
Janki ji.
Hariom.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I can't see you. Where are you?
I am here.
She wanted to say Hari Om.
Hari Om. What is your name?
Diksha Yadav.
What?
जोर से बोलो दीक्षा
Diksha Yadav.
दीक्षा यादव
Diksha